Good morning. We're here. Let's see. I should count down, see how fast Sophia can log on. See if Sophia will be first. I don't have a second hand on my clock. Let's see if Sophia makes it before 60 seconds go by. Good morning, it's Friday. And it's May 1st. April is all gone. Last time we knew what day it was the middle of March. And you were still going to school. And where do you guys put that just next door? So log in, tell us if you're here, give us a count. Let me know who's out there.
Hey, Scott is on. Is that Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, did I see Elizabeth? I'm Elizabeth's mom. Thank you. Has went on and ordered her bag for next week.
Cora and Sunny.
Cora and Sunny, are you there? Good morning.
She's on. Patrick and Lydia.
Hi Patrick. Hi Lydia. I think your mom's already gone on and ordered your bag for next week. Thank you very much. It helps us so much if we know what we're packing for tomorrow. If we've got orders in today, makes life less hectic here while we run around dropping things in bags. So thank you very much, Elizabeth, for getting your bag ordered, and Lydia and Patrick, tell your mom thank you for getting yours ordered. We're doing a very pretty project today for mothers. Sometime Mother's Day is coming up. I don't think it's this weekend. Is it next weekend maybe? I'll have somebody look that up for me. So we thought we would draw a rose. It looks very complicated, doesn't it? Roses are really pretty. They have such delicate little petals, and they kind of open and get bigger and bigger, and they look very complicated. But this really isn't any more complicated than when we drew the ostrich yesterday. So I'm going to show you how we can kind of break down a complicated looking something and draw it very simply. And we're going to use our colored pencils again today like we did yesterday with our ostrich. And we're actually not going to use our Sharpie at all on this one. So who have we got? I got Lydia, I got Patrick, I saw Elizabeth had signed in.
Nick's there.
Hi Nick, Nick signed in. This makes a beautiful drawing for Mother's Day coming up. Joey, look up and tell me, is Mother's Day not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I think? If anybody knows anybody that was in college, that would probably have been when college graduations would take place next weekend.
The 10th.
The 10th. So if today's the 1st of May, that means this Sunday's the 3rd of May, which means a week from Sunday is Mother's Day. So you guys have to think about mothers or grandmothers or aunts. All those ladies that you know in your life that are like a mom to you or are your mother. So think of Mother's Day coming up. We're going to make this gorgeous rose today. You can tell I've got a little bit of blue and purple showing in my rose. My rose is a red rose. Could have used yellow. I love yellow roses.
Finley, Anna, Cecilia.
Hello, Anna, Cecilia. Hi, Finley.
Sarah H. Ava.
And Sarah's out there, and Ava's out there. So we're doing good with getting everybody tuned in here.
Anna and Finley. Oh, I already said that.
Mr. Burke's back there reading names off the computer to me.
Nick's there.
And he just said Nick for the second time. He just said Anna and Finley for the second time.
I didn't say Nick for the second time.
I said Nick the first time.
So he must like reading your names. We should have one piece of paper left in your activity bag. That's our paper we're going to use today. This is one of our mixed media paper. So it's good for marker, it's good for colored pencils, good for oil pastels, good for all kinds of things. So we got our one piece of paper. You'll want to get your pencil ready and your eraser. We'll draw this out first, and then we're just going to use our colored pencils. So I got my little cup here with my colored pencils. I had to sharpen a bunch of mine after we did our ostrich yesterday. So if you need to sharpen your pencils, you'll want to do that. You're going to use these. You can think about, while we're getting ready to start, this is my rose. My rose is mostly a red rose. I got little bits of purple and blue showing just because I wanted to put some extra color in it. But you can think about what color you want to make your rose. You could have a yellow rose. We can use some of the oranges and reds to make shadows on the yellow. You could have an orange rose with some reds and blue shadows. You could do a purple rose. So think about what color you want to do. Just because my rose looks those colors doesn't mean that's what you have to do. We're going to draw right along with me. We're going to shade right along with me. We're going to create the look of this rose kind of opening up and the petals falling down a little bit by making certain lines with our pencils. Just like Ollie, we created his round head yesterday with the ostrich, and some of the pencil strokes went certain ways to make the contour of his head. So his head looked round. We're going to create the look of this rose mostly by which way we make our pencil lines go. So we're going to use our colored pencils. We're going to draw first with our pencil. So do we have most of us logged in and ready to go? Give us some thumbs up. You guys ready to go? You ready to learn how to draw a rose? You can kind of translate this. Your rose can look however you want. You can open it up more. The center of my rose is kind of just starting to open at the top, and it's more open at the bottom. So once you draw this, then you can try drawing it in all kinds of ways and create all kinds of rose looks. I'm going to have Joey move the camera in and get set up on my table here. I got to move my stool back so I don't bump his camera. Every day he moves his camera in closer and closer to where my stool is. I think he's just daring me to bump the stool. So far we're doing pretty good, I think. So are you ready? Let's put this rose down here where you'll be able to see it. I'm going to move my colored pencils over there. Can you tell all the different colors I used in this rose? Are these up at a good spot, Joey? Okay. Can you tell all the different colors that got used in that rose? I made a red rose, and usually the one thing when people are drawing something, particularly when they start putting color on it, the one thing most people don't do is make the dark, shadowy places dark enough. So we used our red, and you can tell where I pressed harder with the red, it looks more red, and where I pressed really lightly, it looks more pink because some of the white paper is showing through. Some places I didn't color at all. I left like totally white in some places. So those look like the really light edges of my petals. But this is what I want you to notice. Where I've got it really compact, where we've got petals going really down deep into a little crevice, or where something's overlapping a lot and creating a lot of shadow, I used black on my rose, right over the top of my red to give these really dark shadows. That helps the rose look real three-dimensional, doesn't it? So, my rose is really big. I can stretch my whole hand out, and that's about as big as my rose is. And I've almost got it right in the center of the paper, don't I? I wanted to leave lots of space. The rose is going to look its prettiest if you draw it nice and big. So we have lots of room to shade on it. So the first thing I did was make myself a big circle. So I knew I wanted my rose to be big enough. Oh, there we go, Mr. Joey. Get the shadow out of the way. So I drew myself a big circle to make sure I didn't make my rose too tiny. So you might very lightly, if you want to, give yourself with your pencil, very lightly, give yourself a giant circle on your paper. Now you guys can't even see that, can you? Because I'm not pressing hard. So I'm going to make that line just a little darker. Can we see that, Joey? Mm-hmm. Okay. This is just a sketch line, so that when I start drawing, I don't end up with my rose only this big in the center. Okay? So this is going to make me remember, oh, I want to stretch everything out this big. And here's what I want you to look at. Every time we draw something, we always look at it. We kind of break it down into shapes, don't we? So you know the shape that I see in this rose? It's kind of funny to think about because you think of a rose as all these petals hooked in into the middle. But I see a cup. I see like a big cup, a middle-sized cup, and a small cup, all stacked inside each other. See my little cup at the bottom of my rose here? If I don't count the big petals that have opened down there, I have a cup here. And then it looks like I have another cup inside that cup. See this cup here? And then I have another little cup up in the top. Doesn't it look like I have 1, 2, 3 cups stacked inside each other? We're going to kind of think of that shape to draw our rose, okay? So we're going to think of starting with our big cup here, and then we're going to put another cup inside it, and then we're going to put a little cup up in the top, okay? In between, we're going to make these wonderful fluttery little edges of the petals. This is actually all one petal, right? It's come up, and then it's curled over the top of each other. This one came up and curled over the top of itself. Same here. This cup comes up and it curls out just a little. These petals haven't opened as much. So, if this is how big I want to keep remembering to make my rose, I don't want to put this cup all the way down at the bottom of my circle because I want to have room for these big petals down here. So I'm going to start in the middle of my paper here, and I'm going to make this cup shape first. So it's almost got a flat bottom, right? It's got a little bit of a curve to the bottom, but kind of flat. And its sides, do they come straight up? They don't come straight up. Up here at the top with the tiny cup, they're almost straight. But these lean out just a little bit. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to press a little harder so you can see my lines. You guys try to press lightly because we're not going to erase the lines. We're just going to go over them with our colored pencil. So here's my big circle I made. I'm going to come up from the bottom just a little bit. I'm going to put the curved bottom of my cup. This is this curve on the bottom here. So put a curved bottom. This might be a little wider than I want it. Okay. Looks like I got a smiley face that's just starting to smile, right? Now remember how these sides are going to tip out just a little bit, okay? And if this was my whole circle, this cup comes about halfway up my circle. So I want my sides to lean out over here. I'm going to let it lean out over here. Now my smiley face is smiling really big, isn't he? So I've got almost a flat bottom. It's got a little curve. And my sides leaned out on both sides till I'm up to about the middle of this circle. Okay? Now these are these lines. We're going to make this top edge here. And then we're going to come underneath it and make this little ruffly part. We're going to put the top edge on this petal so it comes right up from the middle of my cup. Just going to find the middle of my cup here. And I'm going to come up and curve out like that. So here's the middle of my cup. And I'm going to come almost straight up. And then I'm going to curve out this way. I'm just going to let it end right there. Okay, before I put my flutter on. So come straight up and then curve over this way. It's going to curve up a little bit on the end. Now this side, do I start down here at the bottom of the cup? This one starts right from the top of the middle here. And I'm going to come up a little further on this one and go over this way. So I'm going to start up here. I'm going to go up just a little bit. And then I'm going to come leaning over this way. Look how far my side comes. We're way over here to the edge of my circle, aren't we? So I'm going to bring this petal over here a little bit more. I just made it a little wiggly because rose petals seem to get a little fluttery looking. Okay. Now, this one didn't go so far over, did it? Because I stopped right here. I'm going to add this ruffle back here. But I'm going to come back to where my cup got split in half here. Come back to that middle part. Right where these two meet. Right here. And I'm going to add this other edge out to here. I'm not going to hook it on up this way till I draw my next cup. But we're going to put this little bottom edge of our ruffle on. Think of this like a little ruffle that folded over from the top. So it's got some little scallops here. They're not all the same size, but I'm going to come back to where I meet in the middle here. And I'm going to start out close Gonna make it get bigger and wider as it ripples out over here. And I'm gonna come all the way out to the edge of my circle with this little point. But I'm just gonna leave it until I get my other cup in here. I can't connect it over here, okay? So, but I can do the same thing over here. From this point out here, I wanna come underneath with my ripple. So I'm gonna come back here to the point. Here's my point. But I wanna start up a little ways. Remember how this side went up a little ways? So I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna put a ripple right underneath there. And meet it with a point out here. Not looking too much like a rose yet, is it? But we'll get there. Just be confident. We're going to get there. Okay, if we got, did you get your little fluttery part over here that's not joined? And then this fluttery part over here went ahead, we joined it. Okay, how are you guys doing? Give me a thumbs up. Have you got some fluttery edges going?
Ryan's watching you.
Who?
Ryan Hayes.
Hi, Ryan. Got a friend in Charleston watching. Now, look at where we drew our cup first. It has kind of a gap there. We can go ahead and make the sides of our cup come up and meet your fluttery petal you just made, okay? So you got your fluttery edges coming up. We got our cup meeting the fluttery edges. Next thing we're going to do is draw this next cup. This is the medium-sized cup. See how it looks like it disappears down underneath our fluttery petals? I got one side here, and here's my other side over here. It meets in the middle just like this cup does, except the middle's going to be in a different place. So I'm going to come over here. Look at where I am on my fluttery petal I made. Almost to the outside, but not quite. So here's going to be the outside. I want to come in just a little ways. See how big this cup is? I want this cup to be inside that cup. So here's the edge of that cup. I'm going to move in just a little bit, and I'm going to make a line almost straight up and down. It curves just a little bit. Then I'm going to come over and make this side over here. So here's the outside of my big cup. I want to move in just a little bit. Here's the outside. I'm going to move in just a little bit. Come up like that. So if you got your medium-sized cup, this would be Goldilocks. Here's the Papa Bear cup that's too big, and then we're going to draw a Baby Bear cup that's too small. This will be the just right one in the middle. Okay, so we got our big cup. We got our medium-sized cup. We want to split this medium-sized cup in half. See how we got one side, the other side, and it splits in half way over here. So I want to move over here on this second flutter that we made. It doesn't come up very far, and we're going to draw the top of this flutter. But it's going to go way out here. So I'm going to move over here. This is where we're going to split our medium-sized cup. Over here. I'm going to go up just a little ways. Okay. Then I'm going to make a line. It's on an angle like this. See how my flutter's going there? So I want to go angling over here with just a little bit of ripple to it. And it's going to curve in a little hook at the end. I want to go almost all the way out to the edge of my circle I made. It's not quite as far out as this. Everything's stepping in just a little bit. So if you look at the edges of my flutters on the big cup, they're going to be the biggest. The medium-sized cup's going to be a little smaller, and then the top cup's going to be even smaller. Okay, this is the top of this petal. So I'm going to come right underneath. Before I do this other petal, I'm going to come right underneath this one. Here's where we started the top line. I'm going to come right underneath. This petal's not going to be as big as this petal. Each time we step up, everything gets a little smaller. So come back right where we started. Your little wiggles don't have to match, but it's going to go all the way out here. Remember how we put a hook on the end? Going to curve around and meet that hook. Starting to look like maybe it's supposed to be a rose. Let's come put this flutter on the other side. Does this one go as far over? It's not as long as this one, is it? Because remember, we got to be smaller than the cup underneath. This petal comes out to here, so this one's going to stop inside a little bit. Instead of starting down here at the point where I started the other petal, see where this petal started? I'm going to come up and start this petal a little higher. So I'm actually going to start it up here. I'm going to draw the top edge of it first. So we'll make a little ruffle come over here. Remember, I don't want to come as far as that one, so I think I'll stop right there. And then I'm going to come underneath and put the underneath edge of the petal. So start close to this one. Let a little of this petal show and end up right out there. Then you can go look, this side already hooked on. I have a little gap right here, so I'm going to hook this side on. There we go. Okay, it's starting to get there. You know what we can do? Remember how we left this fluttery petal with like this open end where we don't know what it's doing? We can now come, since I have this petal here, we can hook this other side on. See how it comes up? It lets the petal go out there as a little point, and then it wiggles its way right back to here. So come out to this bottom ruffly feather petal that we left and wiggle it up and let it hook on right there. And look on this side, we can do the same thing here. See how this petal hooks in? Because we want this to look like, if we could see through here, we'd see these petals coming all the way around on the back side. So I'm going to come out to this point, and I'm going to flutter this petal in and hook it in right up here. So if I imagine if I took this cup out, see how these petals would hook around on the back side? Just so I remember what I'm doing. Remember with our ostrich yesterday, how we gave ourselves some guidelines, like his mohawk was going to go straight up, but at his cheeks we were going to curve that way. It's good when you're drawing something to give yourself some guidelines. And I know this petal wants to look like it's folding out this way. So I'm going to come over here and give myself some curve lines. Just so I remember this petal's going this way. That means I can kind of erase this line right there. Okay. I want that petal to feel like it's folding this way. What about this one? It's going to feel like it's folding this way. Okay. So that helps me see my petal. Let me erase my line that comes all the way out to the point there. There we go. So this petal's going to feel like it's folding out like that. See how the guidelines help us see what we're drawing better? It helps us see the contour. Okay? So we got big cup, we got medium-sized cup. We are now going to put this little cup on the top and put the top of our rose on. Okay? So see how here's our middle-sized cup. There's the sides. Look at the sides of our baby cup here. It's going to be smaller. It's only going to be this wide across instead of this big across. And we want them to kind of look like they're stacking up right in the middle. So here's the big cup. Here's the middle-sized cup. I'm going to put a small cup, and it's going to go right in. I might give myself a couple little dots. I want it to fit right in the middle of this medium-sized cup. Okay? So I'm going to put a little line coming up there. And these lines are almost straight up and down. A little line coming up there. This was a longer line, then it got a little shorter, and now we got even shorter. So it's not as big this way, and it's not as tall this way. Okay, these are these two sides right here. Now, the middle of the rose, these are where the petals haven't opened up and fallen over as much. They haven't spread out as much. They're all kind of coiled up inside still, like a little curlicue. So what we're actually going to do is up here, I'm going to put a little curlicue right in the middle. Little skinny oval curlicue like that. You want to go just a little bit above where you made your lines and give yourself a little curlicue right in the middle of our little small cup. Okay? You got a curlicue? We're starting to look like a rose, aren't we? You got your curlicue in here? Okay, the center of this curlicue is what's going to get really, really dark, like it goes way down in the middle of the rose. But on the outside, we want to give the impression there's a little bit of a petal there. So come on this outside of your curlicue from the end over here. I'm going to give myself a little hook, swing it out a little, and give a little bit of a ruffle that's going to just come right into the top of the circle there. So it kind of looks like it's going to curl itself up. Okay, that's this little ruffle right here. Now we're going to come on the front of our cup, almost like the rim of your cup you were drinking out of got wimpy and folded over. This is the front edge of the cup, but it's flopped over. If we were making a clay cup, that would be when the clay would be too wet and it would just fall over. So I'm going to come on here. See the top of my rim of my cup? It's not exactly straight across, is it? I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve. So I'm going to start out here at the edge. I'm going to come over the top of my cup. I'm going to come down and give a little bit of wiggle in the middle. Come back over the edge over here. Okay, so we gave ourselves a little wiggle. It's kind of like the ostrich's mouth from yesterday. First it was frowning with a little frown, and then it made a smile, and then it made another frown. Okay? Want to give it this nice ruffly front, so we make this into one whole petal there. So I'm going to start at the corner. I'm going to come across and ruffle along like this, and come back up to a point over here, which means I want to erase a little bit of the sides of my cup. I want my petal to show instead of the edge of the cup. Okay? So I got this little ruffle here. We've got this ruffle here. We kind of need to give a back side to our flower here, don't we?
If you color it green, it could be lettuce.
It does look like a head of lettuce. Who just told me that? Did you just think of that, Joey?
I thought about it, but then I think Lydia and or Patrick.
Lydia,
Just put it in
it
the
does,
comments.
and Patrick, it kind of looks like a head of lettuce, doesn't it? But you know what? If you go in the grocery and look in the produce aisle and look at lettuce, it has the same ruffly edges to some of our heads of lettuce that roses and flowers do. Good comparison. So, if you think Mom would like you to draw a head of lettuce for Mother's Day, maybe your mom loves to cook. Might be nice. We could turn it into a head of lettuce. Right now, we need to give a little backside here to our rose. We've got these petals coiled up in the front. We need to give the backside here. So I'm going to come wrap a little petal around like this. See these two petals that kind of opened up from the backside of our little cup? And we got our coil here, but we need to kind of give a backside to the coil too. So let's go from the edge here where our cup came up, give ourselves just a little bit of a curve here from one side of the cup over to the other side. And then we'll give a little flutter behind that. Okay. So that kind of gives the edge of one of our petals back there. That's this little tiny petal right here. And we're going to give a little bit more petals. So this petal we might open it up from the bottom of this cup. Maybe on the back side of the cup, one of the petals started to fall out. So come down here where we made our little baby cup here. Come down the side. And let's curve ourselves out here a little bit. Wiggle around the top of this rose. And let's curve back in down at the bottom of the cup there. Okay, we're almost there. Actually, when I made my petal curve out here, it's almost like we made another circle around that little baby cup on the top. If this petal doesn't meet, mine already meets. So bring this petal in where you made this hook here. Let that meet on this side. What did we do on this side? We need to let this petal come meet up here. So I went from the point of this petal and wiggled it over to meet. Then what we're going to do is step ourselves down. This one already meets over here. Kind of have a gap here. So let's see. If there was a petal that was coming up from here, I wouldn't want it to start way out here, but imagine if there was the side of another petal coming up here. I might want to put a little ruffle right in there. We got some ruffles. We got everything connected here. It's getting a little complicated too to remember what's going what. We can draw some curved lines coming up to remind us this is our middle cup. Put some lines coming up on your middle cup here. We can put a few lines coming up on the baby cup. That kind of helps us start seeing what's what. And then these are these ruffly tops of the petals, like the rim of the cup that folded over. So let's give ourselves some curves. That way when we're coloring, we'll know which way. This one's going to be curving this way. Same up here. We got some curves coming down. You're going to curve this way on one side. When you get to the middle, it's almost straight, and then going this way, they curve the other direction. When you're looking at something in the straight on, one side's going to curve one way until it gets almost straight in the middle, and then the other side's going to curve the other way. These would be curving out too, wouldn't they? There, that's helping me see my flower a little bit better. You don't have to do that with your pencil, but sometimes I get confused as to what's what on the drawing. So that helps me remember where I'm supposed to be looking. Now, let's give these really big petals on the bottom so it doesn't just look like this tight cup there, okay? Look at where these big petals came from. See how it folds back in? Right near the top of this cup. See where this folds back in? Near the top of the cup. So we're thinking of these as big petals that came off the bottom of our cup. So I'm going to start near this side of the bottom. I'm going to make this petal first. So let's find the bottom of the big cup. We're going to come fold a petal out here like this. Make a few little zigzags in it. I'm going to come out to a really curvy point. And I'm going to curve back in. Now, if I imagine where this petal went, it went right about to the top of this cup, didn't it? Here's my big cup. So I came from the bottom, wiggled out a petal, almost kind of like a triangle, wiggled back in. I don't want to wiggle back in way up here because it needs to look like it's hooking into this big cup. Didn't my clock die? Okay, let's add one more petal here. Okay, this petal kind of overlaps a little. Look how it looks like it goes underneath this petal. I kind of like that. So let's come down here, and instead of this petal starting from the bottom of the cup, let's start it just a little ways in back of this petal. We'll pull it down in the front a little bit. You can still see my imaginary circle I drew. And see how I had this petal come out to the edge? I'm going to make this petal come out to the edge on this side. So I'm going to wiggle it along here. And let's see how far over I go. This petal comes back in near what would be the top of the big cup. Here's the top of my big cup, if I imagine it coming up under my folded petal. So I think I'll bring this rose up. I'm going to pull it in just a little bit and let it curve back in there. I like my big petals. Do you see the direction we're going to color it? Let's go ahead and put some nice curvy lines to help us remember this petal's curving up out of here. Over here it's curving this way. This way. Okay, so we got our petals, we got our curves. We can add a little stem to our rose. Would the stem be over here? Over here? The stem comes from the center of the flower. So if this is the center of my flower coming right down through all these cups, my stem's going to come out right down here. You can make your stem straight up and down. You can make it curve just a little bit. The stem's going to be just a little wider at the top. And it's going to get just a little smaller. Okay, so there's my stem for my rose. Roses have these little trios of leaves, and they're kind of a little jaggedy on the edge. But I made just a nice narrow football shape, and then we can do that with our colored pencils. So I'm going to put one leaf there. Maybe I'll put another one there. And I'll let the other one peek behind here. I'd imagine if it came from here, there we go, come back. So I made myself some leaves. We can do that with our colored pencil. And how are your roses looking? Did you get enough layers in there? Do we look like a rose now instead of a stack of cups? Did your stack of cups go away and it looks more like a rose? I'm going to erase these extra lines that are showing out here from where I gave myself a circle. Remember how I put a circle down there for a guideline? So I'm going to come erase all those little circle lines. I don't need to see those. And I can erase right over my pencil lines. I'm not pressing very hard with my eraser. And I'm actually going to go over my pencil lines a little bit with the eraser, just lightly, because I want to make sure my colored pencil shows more than my pencil lines show. So you can use your eraser really lightly like this. If you don't press hard, those lines aren't coming off, are they? So press really lightly, and you can go all the way across your pencil lines and lighten it up. Look at that. Can you guys still see my lines? Oops, don't lose my eraser there. Can you still see the lines? Okay. So if you want to very lightly with your eraser go over your pencil lines so your colored pencil will show more, you go ahead and do that. Did you find your set of colored pencils? If you're watching us at home and you don't have one of our bags with the set of colored pencils, you could use crayons. They'll work great to color a rose. You could use markers. If you can't find your colored pencils, you could use your oil pastels if you have oil pastels at home with you. So lots of things can work. What we're going to do, what makes our rose look the nicest, is doing some shading with it. Some places we press hard with the colored pencil and we get a darker color. Some places we press really light with the colored pencil, so we're going to get a lighter color. We're going to let the white of the paper help us make our lightest parts of the rose. So if we look at this rose, our lightest parts are what face the light the most. These little edges that hang out here, these curves where the petals have fallen over, the little edges we kept really light. The middle of our cups got light. Out here at the edges and where things go deep down into a crevice there, that's where we got our dark shadow. Okay? But I started everything with just my red colored pencil. So I think, should I make another red rose, Mr. Joey, or should I do a different color? Roses just look really pretty in red. I'm thinking a lot of you might like to use the red. So I'm going to go ahead and use my red again. You can see where I use some blue on it. I kind of like my blue. You could use blues. You could use green so it looks like lettuce. You could use whatever color you like. It's all the same concept of where we're going to press harder, where we're going to use a little black to make shadow. So it doesn't matter what color you're using. If you want to use blue, grab your blue. You could start if you've got a dark and a light blue. If you want to make a blue rose, you could start with your light blue and use your dark blue for some shadow. If you want to make a purple rose, you could start with your purple and use your dark blue for some shadow. I'm going to use my red. That's the one that looks almost like pink here. You can look on the end of it and it says red. And I'm going to start up here in this little curly Q in this little dark crevice here. Okay? And I'm going to come into my little dark crevice in the middle there with my red. And I'm going to press kind of hard so it's nice and solid and dark red. I'm going to come out here on the edges around it and press really hard with my dark red. I'm going to press a little lighter in between. So you can see my dark in here. I'm going to go right over my pencil line. And I'm going to make a dark little curly Q in there. Then I'm going to take my black. Says black on it. And I'm going to go right in the middle of my curly Q, and I'm going to go right over the red color pencil I used. And I'm pressing hard. I want some really dark color right here. This is the dead center of the rose where everything's coiled up so tight it makes a dark shadow. So you hardly even see my red anymore, do you? I left it, I pressed just a little lighter right in the little overlap here, if you can see that. But we want this to look really, really dark here. Now, this is this little dark center. As it comes out, we're going to get more red. So I'm going to put a little darker red right here underneath my ruffle. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a line right across there, right on the top of this ruffle down below. And I'm going to draw a line right underneath this top ruffle here. And I'm pressing kind of hard with my red so I get a nice dark color. And since I'm just pressing hard and going to fill it all in, I don't need to worry about which way my pencil strokes are going. See how I'm pressing? You can't see the pencil strokes right now. That's because I want this to look really dark up here. Now, there we go. This makes this little front ruffle here, which I want to be a little bit lighter so it shows up. It looks like it's kind of folding out at us. So I'm going to take my red, and this would go in curves like this. And I'm not going to press quite as hard. And I'm going to fill that petal in with little lines that make a curve. Just like it's curving back into that little center. And I'm going to let it stay light. I'm not pressing too hard. So I can kind of see the little edge coming out. Since it's up here in the really tight spot, I'm going to put a little red right on this top edge too. I really don't want too much light to show. I don't want it to be as solid red as the rest. I want it to be just a little bit lighter. Okay? And you see these petals on the back side? We're seeing a little bit more light back here, aren't we? So I'm going to come right around. I'm going to draw a line on my pencil line to make this back petal. And I'm going to put a little bit of red closest to my curly Q. I'm going to put a little red there. And then I'm going to use my pencil lighter as it comes out. And I'm actually not going to color all the way to the edge. I'm going to leave just a tiny sliver of my white paper showing there. So I'm kind of dark out here at the corners. And I'm going to come back in and take my black, put just a little black line under this front ruffle that we did. And I'm going to do a little bit of black coming up from the bottom here. Because this is this little tiny, this is like a tiny cup inside our tiny cup. So it's getting a lot of shadow on it. See how cool colored pencils blend on top of each other? I'm putting my black right here on top of all this red that I drew, but I'm still seeing the red show through. Okay, so got a little shadow there, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to draw this next petal up here. I'm going to draw this next petal here. I'm going over my pencil outlines with my red. On the front, I'm going to make my curvy lines coming from here. I'm pressing kind of hard, but I'm making them go in these curvy shapes. Remember all these little guidelines that we put down? So I'm going to put some little petals like that. I'm just going to leave it with some of the white showing for right now. I'm going to put just a little bit. I'm going to color in this back ruffly petal, pressing very lightly with my red. So it almost looks more pink back here. Okay. And then I'm going to put my cup in. Here's the sides of that baby cup we made. And this is the bottom that I see of the baby cup, because it's on top. I see it poking out. And I'm going to color this baby cup really dark at the bottom, because this little baby cup up here is going to get some shadow on it. As I come up, I'm going to press lighter. I loosen the grip on my pencil. Press lighter as we come up. It can get dark out here at the edges. We're going to keep this middle a little light. So I'm pressing lightly in the middle, and then as it gets out here to the sides, I'm press a little darker and really dark out here at the edge. Okay. Take your black, just out here at the edges of the baby cup. We'll add a little bit of black. Add a little bit on this side of the baby cup. And we're going to keep going like this till we create our whole rows. I'm going to, every place where we want a little bit of shadow, I'll take my black and go over the top. I'm not using the black by itself. My black's always going over the top of my red. So it just kind of looks more like a red shadow, a dark color with the red. Okay, so there's my little baby cup that we did. I've still got this nice little flutter out here. So I can come around and outline this petal we made here. I'm pressing hard when I outline. Then I'm going to come in and do my curves on it. Make some curves this way. This side's going to curve this way. Have to imagine my curve coming underneath there. And in the middle, the curve's almost straight up and down. Then when it goes this side, it starts curving more this way. And on this side, it's going to curve the other way, like this. Okay, that's a really skinny place to put curvy lines. It's kind of hard. I'm going to come along with my pencil and kind of fill in a little bit of my red here. I'm going to fill in a little bit over here. And then really lightly with my pencil, really lightly kind of fill in a little bit of the middle part there. I don't want to press hard. I want it to stay nice and light. Okay? Then we can just keep stepping down and filling our rows in. I'm actually going to leave these next little fluttery rims that we made. I'm going to outline it with my red, and I'm not going to fill any of it in yet. I'm going to leave these rims till the very end. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put this fluttery rim, I'm going to outline it with my red. Come right up the side. And I'm going to outline this one right up the side here. I've got a little bit of a petal sticking out there. I'm going to leave my fluttery rims, and I'm just going to concentrate on coloring in this middle cup. This is our medium-sized cup. So I want it to get nice and dark and solid where it's disappearing inside the big cup. So I'm going to press really hard right in here. I'm not worrying about my lines going up and down because I'm pressing really hard and it's getting to be a solid color. In the middle of my cup, I want it to get a little lighter. Okay? So I'm going to lighten up how hard I'm pressing. But look what happened. I got a line here, don't I? I pressed really hard and then I pressed really light. And I see a line. I don't want to see a line. So I can come back in right in between where they meet and kind of press just a little harder. Just a little harder, but not as light as I did before. So I kind of blend. It's like blending with paint, like blending with charcoal. We don't want to see our line. We just want to see it go from dark to a little lighter, to a little lighter, to a little lighter. Now, since this petal's falling over, it's going to cast a little shadow under it here. So I can put a little dark red right underneath my petal. Same over here. And then I want to press a little lighter and blend it into this. Press a little lighter. I'm going to leave a little white actually right there in the middle. Just going to press a little harder right under, or a little lighter right underneath there. Right where it folds, I can get it darker there. There we go. Now, I managed to get all my harsh lines out, so it looks blended. I'm going to take my black, because right down here at the very bottom, I want it to be really dark shadow. So right where it goes down in that V, I'm going to add just a little bit of black. Is the clock correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so put just a little bit of black. I brought it up in this little V right there, but didn't come up too far. Might put a little, just a little black line on the edge of my cup. Okay, I put a little black line where they crisscross here. Okay, that put a little shadow in our rose there. Starting to look like a rose, isn't it? I'm going to jump down and do my big cup here. So I'm going to outline the cup. It folds up here. It comes over here, right up to there. I'm going to paint this cup the same as I did here. So I'm going to, this one I'm going to see, since there's nothing right in front of it, this is going to get more light here. So I'm not going to make the bottom of this one as dark. The bottom of our middle cup went down inside the big cup, so it got some dark shadow. This one gets all the light. So here it makes a difference with our brush strokes, with our pencil strokes. We want them to go the shape of the flower. So over here they're going to curve a little bit like this. I'm not pressing very hard with my red because I want it to be lighter. And on this side they're going to curve this way. So they're meeting this side of the cup out here. Okay. I can get a little more color down here in the corners. A little bit more color down here in this corner. I can get a little bit of color where it crisscrosses here. So where this side of my cup's overlapping this side, I'll put a little more color right in there. Okay, so I have very light cup down here. Now, where the petal's flopping over it, it's going to cast a little shadow. So I'm going to want to bring my color, I'm not pressing too hard, but I'm going to bring a little color right underneath my petal here. And then I want to blend it, so press a little lighter. I didn't press very hard to start with, and then I'm going to press a little lighter. So I blend it in. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm not pressing the hardest I can, but I'm putting a little color right underneath the edge of that petal, and then I'm going to blend it down into the rest of my cup. Just about worn my red colored pencil down. Look at my pencil. I'll have to get my pencil sharpener out in a minute. Okay, did you blend it in there? It's really neat to kind of see your pencil lines, your pencil strokes. They almost are like the little veins in the petal of the flowers. So it's good to see your pencil strokes like that. It helps you see the shape of the flower. So you can do the same thing with your pencil strokes here. You can come make all these wonderful curves. And as it comes towards the center, the curves are gonna turn as it comes towards the center. So they get more straight up and down. We can do the same thing on this one up here. Put some curves coming out of this one. A few little curves here. I've got this inside of this petal that we forgot. So let's press hard and color that in, because that's like the inside going down. And I colored really hard right there. And I'm going to add a little bit of black. So that makes this petal look like it pops up on top of it. There we go. That looks a little better. Any place else we should have a shadow?
Like under where the petal leans over.
This.
On your medium cup.
Oh, you think under here. Yeah, as Joey said. Oh, Joey's going to show me a place he thinks we should have a shadow. Aha, under here. Every place where something leans over something, it'll cast a shadow. So under here, let's add just a little bit of black. I think Mr. Joey has a good idea. Follow right along the line of that ripple. And we'll put, I'm not pressing too hard with my black. I don't want too dark of a shadow here. But we'll put just a little bit of shadow right under that ruffle. And so maybe we'll do a little on this side too. Okay, so we got that. Does two things. It helps you know that something's hanging over. It makes the ruffle that hangs over. It makes the ruffle that hangs over pop forward more. The shadow helps it look like it's coming out. So where else do we have a ruffle coming over? Right on here. So I'm going to take my black and I'm going to outline the edge of the petal just to where it overlaps on the cup. I don't need to outline it where it goes out in the air. And then I'm going to press just lightly with my black and give a little shadow underneath the ripple. I'm pressing really lightly. I don't want to just have a line there. I want it to kind of blend into my red. So I'm not going to press hard. Just going to put a little shadow underneath there. Put a little shadow where my cup's going to go down inside that ruffle. We'll put a little black line where they overlap here. And we got a little bit of a black line over here. Okay, now this kind of looks candy cane striped a little bit. So what we'll do is we'll add a few more really pressing lightly lines in between. So it doesn't just look striped like a candy cane. See, I can still see my lines. I'm just going to press really lightly with my red and kind of fill in with the same curved lines kind of in between all my lines. And we'll fill in a little bit here. I'm not filling in all the way to the edge because I really kind of like this light white edge out there. But I don't want it to look too striped. So I'm filling in a few more pencil strokes in between all of those. There we go. Fill in a few up here.
Don't forget your petal out there.
Oh, yep. Mr. Joey sees his petal out here. Let's make it a little, press harder with our red and make it a little solid where it's coming out and then get really light out at the edge. Okay. Now, I might even put a little black right there. And a little black right under there. Sometimes just the little line with the black pencil is enough to make that petal pop. Okay. So maybe we'll put a little black line right under the edge here too. There we go. And then you just have these nice two big petals on the bottom. If your red still has some lead showing, we can outline these. Outline this one over here. And do the same thing we did on these. Give yourself your nice big guidelines here. So on this one, it's going to curve this way. And the curves are going to start going down and curve this way. And then come in and fill in. I'm pressing really lightly now. Just do that same curvy stroke with your pencil. We'll do this same curvy stroke over here. So we fill in just a little bit in between our big giant petal here. Can you tell where we're going to need a little shadow? Where do you think? Up where it gets near the other petals maybe. Let's put a little bit coming down here.
This side looks like a haircut. Got them all like lined up.
Which side? Joey doesn't like this side.
They're little marks.
Oh, see, Joey did like all my little lines ended in the same spot. Looks like somebody trimmed the hair. So you don't want your lines to all end in the same place. So some of them can come all the way out to the edge. Some of them can be shorter. Make sure they don't all look like they ended exactly the same place. Okay, so we got our petals colored in. I know I'm coloring faster than you, but I want to make sure you see the last little things. When we look at it, it looks really pretty, doesn't it? I really like how three-dimensional it looks up here. Doesn't quite look so three-dimensional right down here, does it? So it almost needs like a little oomph or something. So I'm going to take my black and right along the edge of the cup, I'm just going to draw a line on the sides here. I think that helps a little bit. I think I don't want black to make my shadow here, but maybe I'll take a little bit of the dark blue. There's my blue. This is a dark blue. And I think maybe if I put just a little bit of dark blue instead of black where it overlaps, that'll help it just a little bit. I'm pressing really lightly. But I want to have just a little bit more of a shadow up here. I don't want it as dark as the black shadow. So I'm going to try using just a little blue. I'm going to make sure my blue goes in the same strokes as my red. So we'll do a little bit down in here. And we'll put a little over on this side. Kind of like the blue. You can add some blue in some other places too if you'd like. If you don't like the blue, you don't have to use the blue. It's kind of fun to watch me try it. And then you'll go, oh, well, I don't like how hers turned out, so that means you don't have to try it. So sometimes it's fun to watch somebody else demonstrate, and then you can tell whether you want to try it or not. Okay, so I got my rose here. I kind of like it. I think it looks very pretty. If you want to do your stem, you can use your light green on one side of the stem. Whoops. Let's put these back in our cup, Mr. Joey. There we go. Is that better? You can use your light green on one side of the stem. Same thing, you can use your light green on one side of the leaf. And then press really lightly for the rest of the leaf. Press a little darker on one side. And then press a little lighter as we go to the other side. And then use your other green and add a little dark. You can put a little dark green right over the where you press the hardest with your light green. Just make a line come up that side. And here we can add some dark green on this side. We can come up and add some more dark on this side. Add a little dark green on this one. And then take your black. Since rose leaves are kind of prickly, we're going to go and make some little jagged, we're going to outline the leaf, but we're going to make it a little bit of zigzaggy, jagged edges. not going to outline the whole thing. I'm going to come up this side. Make a few little zigzag edges on this one. There we go. And there's our rose. I might take my black and just get that little front edge there so it pops out. And maybe bring my black. I think I'll go ahead and bring my black line along the bottom of our big cup. Okay, and how are your roses looking? They looking nice and three-dimensional? Have you got a lot of shadow and cool colors in them? You can keep playing with them. Step back and look at it. Just like Mr. Joey and I, when we stepped back and looked at this one, we discovered we needed a little shadow under our ripples here. So step back and look. That's why I just added a little shadow right in here. So look at where it looks. If someplace doesn't really pop and look as three-dimensional, that's what you should always do when you're working on a piece of art. Step back and look at it and go, ooh, I like all of it. This little spot right there could use a little more shadow. See how that now made these two pop on top of it? So finish all your shading, finish all your coloring. Think of a wonderful mom who needs a flower on Mother's Day, and you've got a beautiful flower you could send. Mr. Joey's gonna pull our camera back. And today's Friday, May 1st. We are officially in May, our last month before summer. So please go remind mom or dad to order your bag. Bags will be ready for pickup. Curbside grab and go. They're out on tables outside our front door. They're all arranged alphabetically so you can pull right up. The kids' names are on the bags. So please go remind mom or dad to order your bag. So Mr. Joey, Mr. Mark, and I know how many to pack. We're doing a clay project next week, so we'll have wrapped up clay in your bag to pick up. We'll have, if you know somebody that made a Groot way back, I think that was week 3 in March. If you know somebody who made a Groot, the Groot's planters will be out there to pick up tomorrow during our curbside grab and go. Please take a picture of your rose. I'm curious to know whether everybody made red roses like I did, or whether we might have some purple roses or yellow roses or orange roses. So take a picture. Be sure and tag me. If you take a picture and post it on Facebook, if you don't tag and say @IdeaStudio, then I don't get to see it. So take your pictures, tag us @IdeaStudio, and go on and order your bags for tomorrow. We'll see y'all when you come grab them off the table, and have a good weekend. Bye.